Hello everybody, I'm Ethan, I'm your host for CWL Recap, and this is show number 3. We got a good show for you guys. Today, of course, we're going to talk about the matches from week number 2 for Division A. We're going to talk about the outcomes from the first 2 weeks, and then also we're going to touch on how Division B looks like it's going to shape up. So, of course, before we get into the video, I got to ask you guys to follow me on Twitter so you guys can get updates and stuff like that when I stream, when I post, stuff like that. Twitch, that way you guys can see this before it actually gets uploaded on YouTube. And then, of course, I'm going to have a donation link and a Patreon link where you guys can donate for as low as $1 to help with my lighting setup because it's pretty crap right now. And, of course, the last thing I got to ask you guys to do is be sure to ring the bell button and subscribe. That way you guys know whenever I upload. So, without further ado, guys, let's get right into the video. Alright guys, I'm going to try to cut down on the length of these videos, so I'm going to try to go into matches in less detail and just try to give you more of a broad overview. But first, let's get into the schedule for Tuesday, which is the first day we'll be talking about. So the schedule was Splice vs Envy, Epsilon vs FaZe, Red vs EG, TK vs Epsilon, and then Echo Fox vs FaZe. And my predictions for the day were Envy, FaZe, Red, TK, and Echo Fox. So I got like the ones that are pretty easy right, but I got all the other ones that were kind of in between wrong. The outcome was actually Splice with the 3-1, FaZe with the 3-0, of course, in EG with the 3-1, and then TK with the 3-0, and finally FaZe with the 3-0 over Echo Fox. And my record for the day was 2-3. I was below 500. It was not good. So let's go into the first matchup, guys. The first matchup was Splice versus Envy, and map 1 was St. Marie Hardpoint. And this was a Splice 250-206 win. Splice started out with the nearly perfect holds, going up by over 100 points in the first rotation, and Envy ended up cutting that down a little bit in the second, but they could not get it done. Splice, ended up holding on to win 250-206. And that's something I noticed throughout the weekends, or the week. Splice was very good at Hardpoint and Cap the Flag, but not at Surge, and we'll get into that later. So map 2 was a Valk, and this was a 6-5 to Envy, and Splice actually took the first 2 rounds, and then Envy countered with 2 rounds, and then it would just end up being trading rounds back and forth, until Envy finally won the round 11 to take the map number 2. Map number 3 was London Docks, Capture the Flag, and Splice ended up winning this 5-4, and they actually got 4 caps in the first half alone. And then obviously things slowed down a little bit, and then they only got 1 cap in the second half. Well, I'm pretty sure Envy got like 3 caps in the second half and 1 at the end of the first. But Splice was able to hold on to that one, 5-4. And like I said, their CTF and their hardpoint's actually pretty good, and we're going to get into their stats a little bit later. Now finally, the final map is a Valk, and this was 250-102. Envy almost get 100-point clubbed, and they jumped out to a 100-point lead, Splice did, and then they just pretty much held on, dominating them for the rest of the way. So Splice was looking good at the beginning of the week. Now my recap was Splice actually looked surprisingly dominant in the respawns like I was saying before. And then Envy looked like they're not doing as well, and this was their second loss in a row. The second matchup of Tuesday was FaZe versus Epsilon, and this was a 3-0 going in FaZe's favor. The first map was St. Marie Hardpoint, and FaZe ended up winning this 250-185. Throughout the first rotation, it was very back and forth. In the second rotation, FaZe finally grew a lead, and Epsilon tried to come back, but it was way too far to reach, and then FaZe ended up winning that 250-185. In the first match, it looked like it was going to be a good series, but then the next 2 maps happened. Map number 2 is London Docks, and this was all FaZe. They won 6-0. There's not much to say about it. They completely took control of the map, and it was just pretty much game over. Epsilon didn't look like they really had a chance. The final map was London Docks, CTF, and FaZe finally looked good on CTF, but of course it's because they're playing Epsilon. I think this is the most flag caps I've ever seen in one half. I'm pretty sure they get like 7 in one half. And then going to the second side, only get 2, and Epsilon get 3. But it's okay because FaZe won this 3-0. My remark for this one was that FaZe actually come out and look like they dominate, proving that they are not the worst team, like they're in 8th place, and they take 7th place after this. And then Epsilon looked like they're really bad. So yeah, that's about it for that one. Red vs EG is the next series, and this one was kind of a shocker. But I think EG just kind of outsmarted Red here, and they won it 3-1. They won the map veto. So let's get right into the series here. Map 1 is to Gibraltar Hardpoint. EG ended up winning this 250-236. And Red go up by 100 points here, but slowly EG just chip away at this lead until they finally come back to the third rotation and win the Hardpoint 250-236, like I said. Next map was London Docks S&D, and EG pretty much smoked Red here. They win it 6-2. EG come out hot again, and they took the first 5 rounds. Red got 2 rounds in a row, but it didn't really matter because EG pretty much already had the game put away. Map number 3 is London Docks again, and this time Red was able to win it. EG got 2 caps off the start, and then Red pretty quickly countered both of them, and they went into the second half tied up. Start of the second half, EG again got another cap, and Red got another cap to counter it, and then overtime, Red got 2 caps, 1 in the first half and 1 in the second half overtime to win it. And then finally, map 4 is St. Marie. This is EG's and Red's best map, and it showed it was a 250-238 win for EG. This was a very close one. So Red actually started off kind of slow in this, but they did hold a small lead after the first rotation, and then they expanded on that lead throughout the second. But just like game 1, EG again chipped away at the lead and then eventually took over and won it. And then this also sealed off the 3-1 victory for EG. My remark for this map is that Red started off hot in like all of the respawns, but yet they couldn't quite close it out. And EG are actually improving day by day. They actually look better than they did in Seattle whenever they got second place, so that's good. The next matchup of the day was TK versus Epsilon, and this was an easy pick for me. TK did win this one 3-0 as expected. Map number 1 is at Arden's Forest, and Epsilon actually played TK pretty close on this one. It's a 250-206 in TK's favor. TK jumped out to a nice little lead, and then throughout the second rotation, they also pushed the lead to over 100 points. But finally, in the third rotation, Epsilon kind of fight back and push it to like a really close game, but TK are able to hold on and win the map. Map number 2 is Texas S&D, and this was a 6-3 for TK. TK took the first 3 rounds, and pretty much Epsilon kind of fought back, but it wasn't enough, and TK were able to hold on to this one. And then finally, the final map was Flag Tower, and this was a 5-1 game for TK. This was pretty dominant. They went out to a 3-1 lead in the first half, and then they just held on and didn't let Epsilon have much life. Epsilon did get 1 flag, but it didn't matter. TK closed out the series 3-0. My remark for this one is TK took care of business like they should have, and then Epsilon is still looking like Epsilon. There's not much to say about Epsilon until like the last day, really. The final series of the first day or Tuesday was FaZe vs Echo Fox. This one I kind of had going either way. FaZe wasn't looking good week 1, so I actually picked Echo Fox in this one. But FaZe kind of shocked me here and got a 3-0, and I think this is kind of when Epsilon starts slipping, or Echo Fox starts slipping a little bit. So let's get right into the series, guys. The map number 1 was Arden's Forest, and FaZe actually takes this 250-186. Echo Fox was holding a small lead, but it was pretty back and forth throughout the first rotation. And then in the second rotation, FaZe pretty much just blew it up and then held the lead throughout the third rotation as well, expanding their lead to what they won at. Map number 2 was all FaZe, and this was a St. Marie search and destroy. And it's weird because FaZe was really bad at St. Marie throughout the rest of the first season, and now they're really good at it apparently. And Echo Fox actually started out the game with a 1v3 for Saints, and it looked really bad. But then FaZe just takes 6 in a row, shutting them up, so that's good for them. So the last map of this series was Arden's Forest CTF. FaZe were able to get a cap on the board in the first half, and then get another one as well near the end of the first half, holding Echo Fox to 0. Echo Fox actually put good pressure on the map in the second rotation, or the second half, and I think they even got streaked, but FaZe were able to hold off somehow and win it 2-1. My final remark for this match was that FaZe was actually starting to look good, and this might also be because Echo Fox was slipping, but they were actually looking good, and Echo Fox were not looking very good in Hardpoint or S&D, and S&D was their bread and butter, so that's kind of scary for them. My final remarks for day 1 were that Epsilon still do not look very good, shocker. Red and Envy do look like they're vulnerable, but they still look like top teams. Splice and EG are actually looking a lot better than I expected them to, and then it's hard to judge TK for this day 1 because they did beat Epsilon. Echo Fox is not looking great because they're slipping in the game modes that they're really good at. FaZe give themselves a chance in the playoff hunt by winning both matches 3-0 and going 6-0 in the map count. Now moving on to Wednesday, the schedule went like this: Red versus Echo Fox, Epsilon versus EG, Envy versus Red, FaZe versus Splice, and TK versus Envy. And my predictions for this day were Red, EG, Envy, FaZe, and then Envy again. And the outcome was Red with a 3-1, EG with the 3-0, Red with the 3-1, FaZe with the 3-2, and then Envy with the 3-0. So my record for this day was 4-1. That's not terrible. That's actually pretty good. And my overall for the week at this point was 6-4. So I'm actually going positive this week. That's really good. Now let's hop right in to the first matchup of the day, which was Echo Fox versus Red Reserve, and this was ended in a 3-1 for Red. Map number 1 was Valk Hardpoint, and Red ended up winning this 250-184. Red jumped out to a really good lead in the first rotation. This was about a 60-point lead, and then in the second rotation they ended up pushing it over to 100, and then from there Echo Fox couldn't quite come back into it, and then Red just won it. Map number 2, Echo Fox actually clutched up in the round 11 to win it 6-5. And then both teams started out by winning 2 rounds in a row, so it was tied up 2-2. And then it was very back and forth after the 4th round until finally Echo Fox, like I said, clutched up to win the round 11. Map number 3 was Flag Tower, and Red actually came out on top on this one with the 3-2. They got the first flag on the board, and then Echo Fox pretty much countered it instantly. Near the end of the first half, Red got their second and third caps on the board as well, so they went into the halftime going up 3-1. Echo Fox ended up getting the only cap of the second side, but they weren't able to get 2 to tie it up. So Red won this 3-2. The final map was London Docks Hardpoint, and this was a 250 to 222 win for Red. This was pretty much tied up after the first rotation, and then Red ended up pushing a small lead near the end of the second. And then finally, Echo Fox were able to bring it within 20 points of winning, but then they lost the last hill rotation and Red clutched it up to win the match. Remarks was, this is actually a pretty close series, a lot closer than I expected. Red looked really good in their respawns against Echo Fox, but they needed to clutch up in the search. And Echo Fox played Red really close, but they couldn't clutch up in the situations and the hard points, stuff like that when they needed to. The next matchup was a pretty swift 3-0 with Epsilon versus Evil Geniuses. Map number 1 was Orange Forest, and EG won this 250 to 140. It was pretty close at the first rotation, and then EG pretty much just blew away from that point on. I think it was like pretty much 100 to 100, and then from that point, EG got 150 points, and obviously Epsilon only got 40. Map number 2 was a Valk, and this was a 6-4 for EG. This was actually a really close map between the two teams. Both teams traded rounds, and then EG finally got a 2-round lead and then held on to it, even though Epsilon did take, I'm pretty sure, a couple more rounds. The final map was London Docks, and this was a 5-0 win for EG. This is pretty much just all EG. They got 2 flags in the first half and then 3 flags in the second half, and they didn't let Epsilon get any flags at all. My remark for this map was EG looked like they were just a way better team. They played great, and it was not just because they were playing a bad team. Epsilon actually played them close in the search and at the beginning of the first hard point, so I guess that's 2 good positives, or small positives, for Epsilon. Next up, we have Red versus Envy, and this was a Red 3-1. I thought this was going to be the match for first place, but Envy kind of slipped down a little bit. But Red did get first place from this matchup. Map number 1 was Valk Hardpoint, and this was a 250 to 202 win, so it wasn't that close. Red jumped out to a 100-point lead just to start off, and then they led by about 70 by the end of the first rotation, so Envy were able to narrow the lead by the end of the second, but Red held them off and won it. The next map was London Docks S&D, and this is probably the second most kills anyone's gotten against another Pro League team in a S&D map. Rated got like 19 kills, I'm pretty sure. Both teams started out like taking 2 rounds in a row, so it was tied 2-2, and then Rated pretty much took over, and I'm pretty sure Red like went up by 3 rounds. Envy came back to keep themselves in the game. Classic won a 1v4, but Rated ended up getting a 3-piece in the round 11 to win the map. Map number 3 was a 3-2 win for Envy, so Envy finally clutched up in to capture the flag. Envy got the first score on the board near the end of the first half, so they were up 1-0. Red ended up getting an opening break cap in the second half, but then Envy pretty much just got 2 more and held them off with good base defense. The final map was St. Marie Dumont, and this was a 100-point club for Red Reserve. Red Reserve won it 250 to 99. They went out to a 100-0 lead off the first like 2 hills, I'm pretty sure. Envy were able to fight back a little bit, but obviously not enough, and they lose it. And then my remark for this was, I thought this would be the game for first place. Red continued to look good, but Envy looked like they're starting to struggle now in the second week. The final matchup for day number 2 was Splice versus FaZe, and this went in FaZe's favor 3-2, and it looked really shaky from the beginning. We'll get into that. Map number 1 was Orange Forest, and Splice ended up winning this 250 to 110. They jumped out to a really good 50-point lead in the first rotation, and then they really took off in the second off of a really good bunker hold, and then they strung like Cave and Ruins together, I think, and then from that point on, FaZe really couldn't come back. And then this is kind of why, we'll get into it later, but this is why Splice's KDs are so good, because they were playing the respawns very well this week. Map number 2 is Valk, and I'm pretty sure Splice is like 0-7 or 0-8 on Valk. FaZe ended up winning this 6-3. Splice pretty much take like a 3-1 lead, I'm pretty sure, at the beginning, and then FaZe just take 5 rounds in a row and beat them 6-3. There's not much more to say about it. London Docks was the next map, and this was really weird. This was a Splice 5-1, but through the first rotation, FaZe got the first opening cap, and then it was instantly countered by Splice. Then Splice also got another cap. And then the second half, FaZe was only down by 1, and they pretty much held map control the entire game. But I think Bance like just kept sneaking behind them, and then like it was weird timing, stuff like that. And somehow FaZe ended up losing like another like 2 caps or 3 caps, even though they had full map control for most of the game, so that's unfortunate. Map number 4 was a Valk Hardpoint. This one was very back and forth. It was like pretty much tied all the way up into the very last hill whenever FaZe were able to get some streaks and then hold them off the Smokestacks hill, and they held on to it 250 to 230. Now finally, the game 5 was very anticlimactic. Game 5 was St. Marie S&D, and it was very anticlimactic with the FaZe 6-0. FaZe literally come out in this S&D and look terrific, and Splice looked terrible. There's not much more to say about it, and now apparently St. Marie is FaZe's best S&D map, which is weird because London Docks was their best one before, but I guess it's good to have 2 really good S&D maps. My remark for this was that Splice come out really hot in their hard points and stuff, but they can't quite clutch up their S&Ds. Their S&Ds is a really big problem. And I don't know why FaZe struggled against them, but at least they won it and they put themselves 3-0 in their series for this week so far. Now, I'm sorry, the final matchup is actually TK versus Envy, and Envy ended up winning this 3-0. Map number 1 was Gibraltar, and Envy ended up winning this 250 to 231. This was a very close game all around, but Envy ended up clutching up at the end, getting 2 good holds on hills, and expanding their lead to as big as it was for the victory. Map number 2, again, Envy won this one 6-5, and it was on Valk. TK started out really well and they won the first 3 or 4 rounds, but Envy ended up taking 2 in a row of their own. And then finally, both teams traded rounds until TK got to game point, but Envy took the last 2 rounds to win the round 11. The final map of the final series was a flag tower, and Envy ended up winning this 2-1. Envy did get the first cap on the board in the first half, and then no other caps went through. And in the second half, they also got another cap, which was countered by TK. Unfortunately, Envy played very good defense, and TK couldn't get another cap, so Envy ended up winning the series 3-0. And my remark for this series, Envy finally bounced back after their tough defeats, and they looked actually pretty good against TK. And then TK finally loses the close matches that I said that they're not going to win all of. My final day 2 remarks were that Red and EGs are starting to emerge as the solid top 2 teams in the division. Envy finally bounced back after a tough 3-game losing streak. FaZe get another win, and that puts themselves at 3-3 or 500. Splice look great in respawns, but their S&D is like really bad. Echo Fox are starting to slide, and the Epsilon sucks. Not much more to say. Let's get into Thursday. Of course, the final day was Thursday, and the schedule looked like this. Epsilon versus Splice, EG versus TK, Red versus FaZe, and then Echo Fox versus Envy. And my predictions were Splice, EG, Red, and Envy. And this ended up being a 4-0 in my record for today. And Splice ended up winning this 3-2, EG 3-0, Red 3-1, and then Envy 3-1. So that's good. And then my overall record for the week was 10-4. And my overall record for the entire division for the first 2 weeks was 18-10, which I'm pretty sure is better than some of the casters in CWL, so I'll take that. The first series of the day was the only 5-game series of the day, and this was Epsilon versus Splice. Epsilon looked like they were going to get a 3-0 here, but Splice decided that they're going to come back and win, so let's get right into it. First map was Arden's Force, and Epsilon actually won this 250 to 207. This was pretty much a tie game throughout the first rotation until Epsilon decided to go up by about 100 points in the second. Splice tried to come back, but it wasn't enough, and Epsilon ended up winning this one. So map number 2 is a Valk S&D, and Epsilon ended up winning this one convincingly like 6-2. And this is like Splice's like 7th or 8th loss on this map, so I don't know why they keep playing it. Epsilon started up at winning 2 rounds, and Splice were able to get 1 again, but then Epsilon took 3 in a row to put it to map point, and then Splice couldn't come back, and Epsilon just ended up winning that one. Now this is when Splice starts coming back. Arden's Forest was a 2-1 to Splice, and this was like a really backwards game. Epsilon gets the first cap on the board on the less preferred side, and then go into half like 1-0. And then the second half, Splice gets unpreferred side and gets 2 caps to win the game, so that was like a very backwards game. Map number 4 is St. Marie Dumont, and this was a 250 to 143 win for Splice. Epsilon couldn't get any really good holds. They were pretty much just playing for scrap time the entire game. Splice started out really hot with a 60-point lead, and then they just pretty much grew their lead to over 100 points in the second rotation, and then at that point Epsilon was pretty much out of it. The final map was a Texas S&D, and what looked like was going to be a good S&D just completely went to crap. After Epsilon got the first blood of the first round, everything went to crap, and Splice won at 6-0 in a very anticlimactic game. My remark for this one was Splice looked very bad in the first 2 maps, but then they finally gained traction after like this first round of the third map. And then Epsilon were the opposite of Splice. They looked really good in the first 2 maps, and then like the first half of the third map, and then looked complete trash the rest of them. The second matchup was TK versus EG, and I actually predicted EG for this one as well, and EG win this 3-0. Map 1 was Gibraltar, and EG won this, a close one, 250 to 245. After the first rotation, EG were up over 60 points over TK. TK kind of fought back a little bit, but EG did repush their 60-point lead. EG still held a really good lead going into the final rotation, but TK decided they're going to try to do their comeback magic, but it didn't end up working, and EG held on to the map. Map number 2 is a St. Marie S&D, and EG won this one 6-5. EG started out really well. They won the first 2 rounds, and TK didn't even get a single kill in those first 2 rounds. Finally, TK won a couple rounds back to back, but EG finally pushed to get in the map point, taking 3 in a row. but then TK pushed it to map point as well, and then it came down to a 1v1 accuracy versus Assault, and Assault gunned accuracy off the heady to win it 6-5. The final map was a 3-2 for EG. EG put 2 caps in the first half in about 90 seconds, and then from that point they just pretty much held map control for the rest of the first half. TK were able to get a flag near the end of the first half, but in the second half, EG pretty much just held 2 bars set up in the back of the map and held map control and did not let TK get any more caps to take it 3-0. My remarks here were Evo Geniuses is really starting to look good. And then TK is really starting to lose the close games that I predicted that they would start losing, because you can't win all of the close games. The third map up was Echo Fox versus Envy, and I also had Envy winning this one as well. Envy did win it 3-1. The first map was Gibraltar, and this was a 250-239 win for Envy. This was a very close game. Envy played very well in the first rotation, and they're leading by about 30 points, but they did let Alco get streaks, which play in later. And then in the second rotation, Envy did end up expanding their lead to like 50 points. And then Echo Fox ended up coming back near the end of the third rotation, but Envy ended up getting a really good hold on the last couple hills and win the map. Map number 2 is a Valk, and this was a 6-1. Envy ended up jumping out to a 5-0 lead in the first 5 rounds. Echo Fox said it would take 1 round, but at that point it was already over. Map number 3, Echo Fox finally clutched up and got a 3-2 win on Flag Tower. Echo Fox got the first cap of the first half, and then Envy countered a little while later and also got a second cap to go into the first half. Going into the second half, Echo Fox got an opening push to tie the game up 2-2, and then last second they got the third cap on the board to push the game 4. Map number 4 was an Envy win, 250-149 on Valk. It was pretty convincing. The first rotation was very close, and Envy did hold a slight lead, but then the second rotation, Envy pretty much just blew it open and won the map, like I said. My remark for this series was that Envy really bounced back strong after their 3 losses in a row to take the last 2 of their week, and Echo Fox has some work to do to get back to where I expected them at. Their S&D is slipping and their hardpoint's still not very good. The final matchup of the first 2 weeks of Division A was Red versus FaZe, and in the head of the people that made these series, or the schedule, they probably thought this would be a matchup for first place, but Red was able to win this one 3-1. It was actually closer than I thought. I was going to really rag on FaZe, but after I rewatched the VOD, it was actually a lot closer than I thought, and it was just a bunch of really silly mistakes. The first map was St. Marie Dumont, and this is Red's best map, but FaZe was able to win this one 250-206. After the first 2 rotations, it was a pretty much tie game, but finally in the third rotation, FaZe was able to get a good lead and put Red away. Map 2 was Arden's Forest, S&D, and this was a Red 6-4 win. This one started out with both teams trading early rounds, and it looked really good for FaZe after it took like 2 or 3 rounds in a row to go up 6-2, or 4-2, I'm sorry. But then Red took the next 4 rounds, shutting down FaZe, and then this is where FaZe kind of fell apart. Map number 3 was London Dogs CTF, and this one was pretty crazy. This one ended up being a Red 6-5 win, and it could have been way worse for FaZe. FaZe would be able to get the first cap of the first half, and then Red instantly countered, so it was a tie game from there. And then again, Red and FaZe were able to tie caps, so it was 2-2. And finally, in the first half of the CTF, Scraps got streaks, and Red rallied in 3 caps to go up 5-2. But FaZe did finally get their third cap on the board, going into the second half only down by like 2. So it could have been way worse. Starting the second half, it did not look good for FaZe, as Red got an opening flag cap to go up two flags again. And then FaZe were able to counter later on, but Red pretty much held on to win it 6-5. The final map was Arden's Forest Hardpoint, and Red won this one 250-199. Red started out by jumping out to about a 50-point lead in the first rotation off of a good bunker hold. FaZe were able to bring themselves in on all the other hills, but then again, Red had a really good bunker hold and pretty much put FaZe away throughout the second and third rotation, and then they took the series 3-1. My remarks was FaZe looked really good in the first map, and then the first 4 rounds in the second map, but then they completely fell apart. And then Red continues to stay on top, and they look good. My remarks for the final day were that Red and EG are pretty much solidifying themselves as the top 2 teams. Envy finally bounced back to bring themselves up past 500 again. TK seems to have lost their comeback magic. FaZe played Red really close, and they almost finished off their dream week. They went 3-1, so that's pretty good. Splice looked very flat the first half of the series, but they did enough to come back and win the series on a reverse sweep. And finally, Epsilon choked their chance of winning a match in the league. Now, the final thing I want to do before we move on to Division B is I want to talk about the overall standings and what I think about each team at the end of this first 2-week cycle. So we're going to go over the division standings first. So first we have Red in first place, EG in second, Envy in third, TK in fourth, FaZe in fifth, Echo Fox sixth, Splice seventh, and Epsilon 8th. And we're going to start from the bottom and go up, guys. So Epsilon is probably the most consistent team because they're consistently trash, okay? There's no other way to say it. They have 3 of the lowest overall KD players in the league, and Vortex, Dave, and Reedy. They were able to win 4 maps in almost a series, but it really looks like they're a team full of random players playing ranked play whenever you're playing solo. However, they do have upset potential, so look forward to that whenever they come back to see if they can knock a team looking for the 4th place spot down back in the 5th and 6th. Splice at 7th place is kind of where I expected them to be, but these guys are really interesting because Splice actually had almost all their players with a positive KD in the 2nd week, as well as all of them being really close to even throughout the first 2 weeks. So it's really weird that they're all the way in 7th. But this is pretty much because they world star all of their opponents in the respawn modes, and then they're really bad at S&D. So all it takes is one team to like pretty much take a respawn from them, and then they pretty much lose a series no matter what. It really worries me about their S&D because pro teams don't really scrim S&D that much. So I don't know how much they're going to get. So I'm going to expect you guys to probably win a couple matches here and there. But I don't think they're going to get out of 7th place. I think they're going to stay here. In 6th place, this is kind of one of the most surprising ones. We have Echo Fox. They really fell apart in the 2nd week. Vicento really struggled the most. He had a .87 KD, and he also has a pretty low KD overall. Their hardpoint hasn't improved any, which is really what they need to improve, and now their S&D is starting to slip, so that's really scary for them. I think that the honeymoon period for this team is over, and I think they're maybe starting to get rubbed the wrong way, especially with Temp, and they honestly didn't get better as I expected them to after Seattle. And I think this is probably going to be where they're sitting now that I see how they're going to play in the league. They're probably going to be around the 5th and 6th spot. At 5th place, FaZe Clan had the biggest turnaround in the 2nd week, and they actually didn't do too bad considering their 0-3 start in the 1st week. All of the players but Priest in the 2nd week improved their KD, and I'm pretty sure half or 3 of them also have even KDs now at least. So Attach went from a .8 to a 1.11, which is one of the highest KDs the 2nd week. Replays jumped from a .91 to 1.15, which is like the 3rd or 4th highest in the 2nd, which is pretty good. And then Zuma went from a 1.02 to a 1.10, which is really good for a sub player as well. So with more practice, I think these guys could probably improve and not start out 0-3 in the 2nd set of their rotation here. So I look forward to see if FaZe can actually come back and try to take that 4th spot from TK. And speaking of TK, they come in at 4th place, so we're going to talk about them next. This is a team that I do not see sitting here whenever everything is said and done, the dust settles. They won way too many series that were like insane comebacks, stuff like that, for me to feel comfortable about them winning those same series going into the next rotation of the weeks. I think I see this team being a 5-6 spot team. They can probably win a couple here and there, but I don't see them staying in 4th place, unfortunately. 3rd place, we have Envy. And after the 1st week, I honestly expected them to be higher up on this list, but they started slipping. They lost 3 games in a row. So I think they're pretty lucky to be where they're at right now. And to be fair, I did predict these guys to be in 3rd place in my very first show, so kudos to me. Chino and Classic really struggled in the 3-game slide, with both of them holding .9 KDs. But if all these guys can get back to about an even KD with Hook playing the same, this is going to be a scary team going down the stretch who could challenge maybe EG or Red for a top 2 spot. In 2nd place, we have Evil Geniuses, and this is a really pleasant surprise. I didn't really expect them to get better in Seattle. I thought they'd be the team to get worse in Seattle, and Echo Fox would be a team that got better. I have no doubt in my mind that this is the smartest team in the league right now, smarter than any other team. Where it kind of worries me is when we get to the playoffs and they're playing teams like Rise, OG, and Luminosity. Those teams are really slay heavy, so we'll have to see how they go. But the good thing is they're not in the division, so I see these guys holding a top 2 spot from now on out, here on out. And something kind of juicy for you guys that you would never expect. Assault and Aches held the 2 highest KDs in week 2. Assault had a 1.28, and Aches actually had a 1.22, which is insane. Now, if Aches can just keep his KD at like even and Assault stays at like a 1.15 to 1.2, this team is going to be really scary going into the playoffs as well. Now finally, we have Red Reserve at number 1. After WrestleMania, I had this team being in a top 2 spot regardless, and now they end up at number 1. But I mean, this division is not over yet, so someone can overtake them still. But what does surprise me about this team is that how they're winning their matches. You guys probably won't believe me when I said this, but actually like 2 of their players are negative KDs. The other 2 are pretty much just even. And in the 3rd week, all of them went negative except for 1. So what this really tells me is that even though they're being outslayed in hard points and stuff, they're playing smarter than the enemy team, they're getting the kills that matter, and they're winning scrappy games. So this is really good for this team. If they can get all of their players going together again, this team's going to be extremely scary, and I see them keeping a top 2 spot with EG. And then finally, we're going to talk a little bit about stats, specifically individual stats. We're just going to talk about the top 5 performance of this first 2-week cycle. So first place is Hook. He ended up with a 1.2 KD. He slowed down a little bit from his 1.3 overall, but I mean, he's still the best player in this division, and he's a sub player, hyper aggressive, so kudos to him. The second best overall player in the first 2 weeks was Assault. He had a 1.19. Third place was Rated. He was playing like an animal last week, so that really bumped his KD up with a 1.13. And then finally, tied at 4th and 5th place, we have Zuma and Accuracy with both 1.10s. So now, with that being said, let's get into my predictions for Division B and wrap up this show. Before I get into individual picks for Division B, I'm going to go over what I think the standings will be after the first 2 weeks, because I've heard some things I kind of changed my mind about how they're going to go. So for my standings, I'm going to go with Rise at first, Optic second, Luminosity third instead of... I had Optic and Luminosity switched up, but I heard that Luminosity is not doing too hot in scrims. So I'm going to go with Optic at second, and I think maybe Optic might be better than Rise at this point, but I'm going to stick with Rise at this point. United at 4th, Complexity at 5th, Mindfreak at 6th, Tainted Minds at 7th, and then Unilad at 8th. So let's get right into my predictions, guys, in the schedules. So Tuesday, we have the schedule that looks like this. Unilad versus Rise, Luminosity versus United, Optic versus the Unilad, and then Complexity versus Rise. And every week from the last 2 weeks, there's been like an upset. So I'm actually going to do like a kind of like an upset prediction, or like a prediction that might go against what people might think as well. So let's get right into my predictions. So I have Rise taking it because I feel like they're probably the best team in this division. Next, I have E United winning this. I think E United might be a little bit more prepared than Luminosity. So I kind of see this as a sleeper pick here. Next, I have Optic over Unilad. That's an easy pick. And then Complexity over Mindfreak, and then finally Mindfreak over Tainted Minds, which is also a pretty easy pick. Now the Wednesday schedule goes like this: Mindfreak versus E United, Tainted Minds versus Luminosity, Complexity versus Unilad, and Tainted Minds versus Optic, and then the last match is Luminosity versus Rise. I kind of wanted to almost pick Mindfreak over E United as a sleeper pick, but I'm going to go with E United. Second map, I'm going to go with Luminosity over Tainted Minds. Then I'm going to take Complexity over Unilad, Optic over Mindfreak, and Rise over Luminosity. Now let's get into the final day. Now the final day, Thursday, the schedule goes as follows: Complexity versus Mindfreak, Tainted Minds versus Unilad, Rise versus the United, and then Optic versus Luminosity. And now I gotta pick Complexity over Mindfreak, Tainted Minds over Unilad, Rise over E United, and then Optic versus LG. And that's going to wrap up the show, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please leave a like, follow me on Twitter and Twitch, subscribe, hit the bell. This has been Ethan, guys. Thanks for watching.